show marketing tips for independent artists. So Maggie recently was on a panel talking about this at Americana Fest. Just has a lot of interesting perspective here, working on both the venue side and the artist management side, and at both pretty reputable companies. So I think your opinion here matters a lot and can be very helpful to independent artists or venues or promoters trying to kind of get a better idea of how to do some marketing better for the shows and like who's responsible for it and all that stuff. So first though, I'll let you just give a little introduction beyond what I just said of who you are and what your work entails.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. First of all, Craig, very flattered to be asked. I'm Maggie Adams. I currently work at Basement East, which is a venue in Nashville. There are two venues actually that I work at. Basement East is like the 600 capacity venue. And we have a smaller venue that's kind of like our OG baby venue that's 150 capacity, and that's the Basement. So two different things going on. I mainly do marketing for the Basement East, as the Basement is pretty small and for up and coming artists that are like just playing their first shows and that kind of thing. And I was in artist management for a long time, doing tour marketing there. I managed my own artists for a little bit. It was kind of a lot, and I was doing mainly just Americana artists. So I started at the Basement East because I wanted to broaden the genres of artists that I was working with. It was right after the pandemic when I got hired, so everyone was excited to get back to shows. And that's when I started marketing from the venue side. So yeah, I've been in the entertainment industry for about 10 years doing various things related to marketing. And I love tour marketing.
Yeah, awesome. That's a good introduction. And like I said, I think that's a really cool kind of cross that should give you some interesting perspective on this topic. So let's just talk about it. I think like we were talking about before we started recording, there's this kind of weird dynamic in show marketing where there's a bunch of different people involved. There's the artist management, there's the artist, there's the promoter, there's the venue. Sometimes there's even more people mixed in there, and it can kind of get lost sometimes, especially when you're doing many shows, who is responsible for promoting a specific show. And at the end of the day, the artist is, I think, the one that I talk to the most often that doesn't realize how responsible they are, especially if they're getting started. They might be doing well booking shows locally, but they play their first show in a new market. Yeah. And there's kind of just a big question mark on like, how do you market a show as an independent artist?
Yeah.
And how do you work with a venue to do that? So
yeah, as an artist, especially if you're independent, it can be really daunting if you don't have a team around you. But you know, there's a lot of things to consider, and I definitely love helping independent artists do that. So I think the most important thing to know if you are an independent artist marketing your own show is that you do have to treat it like your job. No matter who else is helping you, it's important to kind of like take the onus, especially if you don't have a manager, you don't have an agent, then you're the one that can get your audience to pay attention. So I think the most important thing is leaning into your own audiences, using your own email list, using your own socials, that kind of thing, because that's one thing from the venue point that I can't access. You can give me access to like Facebook and Instagram audiences and that kind of thing for ads. But as far as like posting on your socials, that's going to be the thing that gets your fans to the show the most, because oftentimes fans are going to be following the artist they like more than the venue they like. Hopefully they're following both, but that's the most important thing, is to, you know, lean into your own audiences.
Do you have any like ideas or like what are you seeing work as far as like the types of social posts and artists can be doing for their own audiences that are effective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I definitely think as far as the social platform, I really think that artists can lean into whichever one they feel the most comfortable on and where their fans are the most. That could be different for everyone. You don't have to do every single social media platform perfectly. I think just leaning into one is going to make it a lot more manageable for an independent artist. And then as far as different types of content, obviously video is going to be like the best kind of thing you can do, but a mixture of all is always good. But I like to tell artists that they should really lean into like promotions that make sense for them, and that really resonate with them. You know, like getting creative about what is that like edge you have creatively, what's unique to you that you can lean in to kind of like cut through the noise. Because if you just do the same thing as everybody else, or if you try to copy some promotion that doesn't make sense for you, then it might not get traction. But like what's the thing besides music that might, you know, be your edge that somebody else doesn't have? For example, I saw a really great promotion recently. We had John Early come to the Basement East, who's like a comedian, you know, actor, all those sorts of things. And so he did this hilarious promotion where he got on social media and did like a little video recording of his face. And it seemed like it was really serious. He started with like this face of like, he was about to cry. He was like, I've gotten some terrible news. I've heard that the cities that don't sell out, your town will be burned down. Like, and it was so funny. And he named all the cities, and it just became this like running joke on his socials. And that worked for him because he's a comedian. And
Yeah.
Also his hometown is Nashville. So I think that resonated a lot. So that's just an example of like, it doesn't always have to be like, you know, you have a video liner that's like, here's the show date, here's the venue, come see me. Like, lean into your, you know, specific unique thing a little bit more.
I've seen some artists do really creative stuff there. And it's like, I get it. It's tough when you're also trying to like write music and perform and do all that stuff, but it's like, it is part of the job. And you might be a good, visual artist, right? Like, and you can create visuals that are awesome, or a poet, and you can write some like poetry, or you might have some comedy aspect to it, or just entertainment in general.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not to say that every single post you do has to be like that creative. Like, you should have some filler posts of like graphics and like you playing songs and things like that. But like, yeah, just think about what you can do a little bit differently, and maybe try for like once a week to do something a little bit more creative. But
Cool.
I definitely think that as far as like working with the venue, some of the most important things you're going to want to do at the very beginning, once the show is like confirmed and you're introduced to the marketing team, or you're not, like, you should ask who the marketing person is, number one. And then I think it really helps to be organized and give your marketing team or the ticketing team all of the info up front. Like, what are the assets you have? Your photo, your bio, your video clips, like music videos, just all the things on the front end that the marketing person can dive into and use throughout the campaign is really, really helpful. Even just like a list of single release dates, or like, you know, press that's coming out, things like that, that you can list from the get-go so that the marketer can like plan to help promote around those sorts of things. And then also follow up with the venue, like every couple weeks, to make sure that you guys are on the same page. As well as asking for the ad plan up front. You never know like which venue is going to have the budget to do like a full-on ad campaign, versus sometimes if you're playing those small venues, they may not have something like that. So just getting clear on the front end who is taking charge of what is really important. So when I make ad plans, I'll include things like social media ads. I'll run those. I'm like liaising with radio, you know, people in the area. It might be that I am connecting with local businesses like that might want to do promotions, or outlets like Do 615, which is, you know, a local like event listing company, or Vesta, which, you know, lists events on many different places for you. I do like all of those sorts of things, kind of just covering all of the bases, all of the areas that you might see a show. So that includes street team as well. I help with that. It's always good to kind of get clear on who might be street teaming in what areas. If you are a local artist, like connecting with the venue on that, if they're capable of posting for you, or if you have to like go pick up the flyers yourself. Just getting kind of granular on like all of
Yeah. I think those are questions that a lot of artists are probably, even if they've been doing it for a long time, sometimes afraid to ask a venue, because you either just assume that they're going to do all of that stuff for you. And it's like, I know, like, you know, you guys probably do more for some artists versus other artists, just from the nature of like having to manage your resources. So as an artist, like, and also probably asking probably nudges you up that list a little bit of like, oh, like they actually are going to pay attention and notice if we, you know, do this thing or that thing for them.
Right. It never hurts to ask. Like, some people might ask me, hey, can we do a collab post on Instagram? And that may not make sense for us, but at least you asked, and I'll just say, sure. Or, you know, I'll say maybe next time this one doesn't really make sense, but like, it never hurts to ask, in my opinion. There is a fine line between like following up every day with the venue. You might not want to do that much, but I think like every week or two is kind of a good basis to follow up with, because you want to kind of make sure you're on the same page, and you can update them with new assets and things like that. Any videos that you might share on socials that you want us to share on our story or something, like we're happy to do organic sort of efforts like that, as well as the email list sends and the social ads and things like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any other kind of tips outside of working with the venue that the artists can do to just make sure that they're leveraging their fans as much as possible?
Yeah, I definitely think that, even though it's old school, email list is still really important and a huge asset to you. That's like your data that you have. So I definitely think that using your email list for show announces, on sale, like 1 month out from your show date, 2 weeks out from your show date, week of,
Yeah.
those are all like important kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I think email is such a valuable channel that it doesn't necessarily bring you new fans, but it allows you to keep your current fans engaged. So you need a mix of some platforms that are going to reach out to new people, and then you need the channels that are going to make sure the people that are fans, the amount of musicians that like I'm a huge fan of that come and play in Omaha and I didn't even know they were here because they didn't send, and I'm on their email list or their text list, or that like it's because they don't want to bother. They're like, oh, I sent one email 6 months ago and I didn't read it, or I forgot about it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's just like, I think it's important for artists to remember that they're rarely ever going to be annoying, because there's just so much noise. Like you could send a message to some person 7 different ways, like a poster, a social post, an email listing, like bands in town messages, and they might see one of those things. So whenever you feel like you're doing too much, you're actually probably not doing enough. So
that's there. That's marketing in a nutshell.
Pretty much. It's just like cover all your bases in like 11 different places and they might see one. So that's really important to remember as you kind of feel burnt out about posting, or if you feel like you're doing too much, just remember that there's so many other people out there doing it. So you gotta cut through.
You got to cut through the noise. Okay, I think we're just about in time. That went by super fast, but I really think we covered some good stuff there. Is there any kind of final takeaways you'd like to leave anyone listening with?
Yeah, I definitely think don't be afraid to ask other people for help. Don't be afraid to reach out to, other artists that you have seen doing things well that you're friends with, and don't be afraid to ask your venue partners for help, because they want you to succeed as well.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. Thanks so much, Maggie.
Yeah, thank you. It did go by fast. Hopefully some people can take away at least a couple ideas from this.
Awesome. Yeah.